Hey guys, Bananas Finance here, and welcome to another Dragon Ball FighterZ tutorial. Today I'm making something a little bit more universal than some of my later videos that are more character specific. I'm going to be talking about 5 different ways that basically any character in this game can mix up an opponent, what different resources you have available to you whenever your opponent seems to have all the answers defensively. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, starting off at number 1 is standard overhead plus an assist. And so what I mean by this, well, first we'll start off with, in case you don't know, basically every character in this game, if you hold forward and medium, you get an overhead. You know, it's kind of slow, so not always the best, but by now I'm sure everyone knows that if you're blocking low, you block a majority of attacks that your opponent throws at you. If you block low, the only thing that you're susceptible to is overheads. I mean grabs, of course, but I can only do that. But as you can see, if my opponent is set to guard low, even if I hit him with this universal overhead and mashing light after, I can't get in after. So a great way to capitalize on this universal overhead is, say you're doing your normal block string and I can't get in, whatever, he's blocking low. You can throw in right there. So that's me just throwing, instead of going for like a low in my block string, I'm going to throw in the universal overhead, but I'm also going to call in an assist at the same time. Now, obviously this doesn't necessarily work for all assists, like beam assists will just kind of launch them too far away, so you do have to pick the right assist in this case, but it does work for a lot of assists, for like Bardock assist, for Piccolo assist, Android 16, so many that are like, they come out pretty quick, and don't knock your opponent super far back. So this is a really good way and a good mix-up tool to start learning early on, because a lot of times when people block, they just kind of block down here, and then you just need to be able to know how to capitalize on these universal overheads. So that's going to be number 1 for this video, is that guy right there. Your combo will be scaled, I believe, like the same as a medium, but hey, at least it's or sorry, not as a medium, scaled the same as a light starter, but hey, at least you've gotten in, you've got some damage, and you can get a full combo off of this. Alright, coming up at number 2 is an overhead into a Dragon Rush. Dragon Rush is something that everybody can do, it's the throw in this game, but you have to be careful when you throw this out, because sometimes it's very easily techable. In other words, the opponent may just see it coming and properly handle it. But a good way to cover this is, so if I do the universal overhead, and say I don't have like an assist to back it up, if I try to attack right after, an opponent can reflect me out. Like, I will not be able to continue pressure. That being said, and similarly, like say if I'm in the corner and I do like an instant air dash overhead, well, in that case they can't, but say I mess up something. What I sometimes like to do, and what I see a lot of people do, is they'll do an overhead into a Dragon Rush. So like here, if he goes for that reflect, I totally break through it, I get in for a combo, bada bing, bada boom. This also works as kind of like a post knockdown setup. You can go for like a fake overhead into a Dragon Rush if they block the overhead per se. So let's say we'll do guard all. If I push this guy into the corner, say that like I know that he's going to reflect there after blocking, I can just, or if he's even going to continue blocking, it doesn't have to be reflect. I can just follow it up with a Dragon Rush. A lot of times people aren't seeing it because they're like, oh, I just blocked the overhead, he's probably going to go in for a normal string now. So if you throw that in there, that's a really good way to mix your opponent up as well. So yeah, that's overhead, either form, either universal overhead or instant air dash overhead into a Dragon Rush. Okay, coming in at number 3 is one of my personal favorites that I started doing a while ago. Oh my god, what is Jiren doing? Just ignore that. And that's the double overhead in the corner. Double instant air dash overhead in the corner. And for those of you that aren't familiar with like a good way to instant air dash, I will throw up a link in the description down below actually to a tutorial, like a 5-minute tutorial I have on how to do that. I have a really easy method, and it's a must-have technique for upper level play. So that being said, assuming you know how to properly perform instant air dash overheads, this is one of my favorite things to do after knocking an opponent down in the corner, because it catches a lot of things. So, you know, if I have done a full combo here, and I get a sliding knockdown, you know, a lot of times you'll see the instant air dash overhead. That's what a lot of people do as their follow-up from a knockdown. That being said, a lot of times, you know, you'll do an instant air dash overhead and then start a string after, but your opponent has like already started blocking low because they're like, okay, I blocked the overhead, they're probably going to go low. A lot of times they're not expecting 2 overheads. You catch people with this all the time because they only usually block high on the very first hit of your string. So I don't have the opponent properly set, but oh shoot. I have him to block the first thing, but this is basically to emulate a person who will block the first overhead of your string normally, like stand blocking, and then we'll switch to like crouch blocking. And so this is a fantastic way in the corner to open up your opponent, because you go for the overhead and then you just go for another one, and then you can follow up with pressure from there into a full combo. It's one of my all-time favorite mix-up tools right now in the corner. It's super effective. I would definitely highly recommend this technique. Okay, and coming in at number 4 is kind of a variation of the instant air dash, and that is to do an empty jump or empty instant air dash into a low. So I'll show you what I mean by this, because this is kind of more conditional, so you have to understand what your opponent tends to do when they wake up from a knockdown, because if they're patient and they just like to block, the double overhead is a really good way to go, as I just previously covered. That being said, if they like to wake up reflect, the double overhead will lose, because the reflect will push you back and you won't be close enough to get your second overhead in. That being said, if you know your opponent likes to wake up reflect a lot, this is the best way that I would recommend dealing with that. So let me show you what I mean really quick. So we'll just do a really basic bad combo. Boom. So right there, the opponent was all set to wake up reflect. So if I were to do my normal overhead, just get him down on wake up, I would get pushed back. But say like he's been doing that a lot to me, and you know, I kind of know what to expect, then I can alter it. I can still go for the instant air dash, but I can wait him out until the reflect is over, not actually do the overhead, and then go for lows afterwards and open him up that way. So that's another really good way to open your opponent up, especially if they really like to reflect upon wake up. Alright, and lastly at number 5 is one that is a bit more advanced, and it's one that I don't even use that often, but it certainly happens to me a decent amount, especially at upper level play, and that's just your standard cross-up. Now some characters are better at doing this than others, but what I mean by this, let's see if I can even pull it off. Okay, there I actually left a small gap, so it wasn't a true... There we go. So it's just like that. So like say that, you know, my opponent is blocking, and I do like a standard string, and then I can throw in a cross-up if I like haven't been doing that a lot and they're really hard to break down their defenses. This is one way that usually catches a lot of people off guard, because it's quite hard to block cross-ups. This does take a lot of practice, though. Like I said, I don't even use it that often because plainly I'm not good enough. But this is one that would definitely take some practice, but is still a good way that you can mix up your opponent if they tend to be very hard to open up. Alright, and there you have it. Somewhat of a quick video, but I hope that you found it useful, just quickly explaining 5 different ways that you can universally open up your opponent in Dragon Ball FighterZ. As always, I hope you found this useful, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like and a comment to let me know how I'm doing. Anyways, I hope this helped, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.